Hi, it's me again, Terry Mullins. I hope everyone is doing well. Today I'm going to talk about the 2000 edition of the Betty Crocker Cookbook. This is the ninth edition of the popular cookbook. As I look at the publishing information at the beginning of the book, I find it interesting that this cook was manufactured in China. I guess that goes back to Hodeker saying that publishing and printing cookbooks has always been mostly about making money. Manufacturing the cookbook in China seems a bit deceitful to me, considering that the company went to so much trouble to create a fictional Betty Crocker that represents the typical all American cook. Betty Crocker's image is carefully crafted and changes through the years so she can continue to represent her target art audience as time moves on. I wanted to show you her picture as she was portrayed in 2000, but this cookbook does not include a picture of her. However, there is a personally signed introduction letter from her to her readers. She reassures them that this new edition is put together with careful planning and research. She mentions that this cookbook has new chapters with grilling and vegetarian recipes to represent the changing needs of her readers. This also supports Hodeker's ideas when he mentions that cookbooks are written for specific audiences. Of course, this book contains a table of contents at the beginning and a detailed index at the end. The cookbook is arranged by food type and contains 19 chapters. Many pages of interesting and relevant information besides recipes are in the book. The entire first chapter is about cooking basics and ingredients and contains useful information for cooks. And each chapter begins with a short section titled Basics. There is also a final chapter titled Beyond the Basics that has even more cooking how-tos. If you remember in the first video, I showed you a page with pictures of cuts of beef. This cookbook has a more sophisticated page with actual photos of beef cuts. There's also a page for pork and lamb, and there's a page for different squashes that I find very informative. Let me show you those pictures real quick. Here's the beef page. Look how good of information that is. And this is the squash page. Great information. Okay, so let's see. Excuse me. This cookbook is more compact than the 1979 version and has approximately 950 recipes compared to the 1,500 recipes in the 79 version. Like previous editions of the Betty Crocker Cookbook, the names of recipes are geared to the target audience. Simple names like candied sweet potatoes, meatloaf, or pumpkin pie are found in this cookbook. Again, these names are meant to appeal to your average, hardworking, middle-class home cook. The recipes in this cookbook are easier to follow than those in the earlier edition because the instructions are numbered and placed on separate lines in this cookbook. In the older version, the directions were in a paragraph format that was hard to follow. In 2000, granola bars were very popular. The name Lemon Squares in the older cookbook has been updated to lemon bars in this 2000 cookbook to reflect this trend. And remember when I tried unsuccessfully to find a heart-healthy recipe in the earlier cookbook? That's not a problem in this 2000 edition. People had become much more health conscious by this time, and the cookbook reflects this change by marking low-fat recipes boldly so that they are easy to find. In the late 70s, many cooks were homemakers with more time to cook, but by the 2000s, most cooks had full-time jobs outside the home. This cookbook acknowledges this new trend as well, and it notes in bold letters that some recipes are fast. As I said before, the Betty Crocker cookbooks are aimed at middle-class, everyday cooks. By offering canning and food preservation tips, they support points that were promoted in both of the readings this week. People eat what is available. In Chapter 1 of Food, The History of Taste, the hunter-gatherers ate food that was available. And later in Chapter 5, there was an entire section that discussed the fact that people of all social classes eat whatever is available. Betty Crocker realizes this and shows her readers how to preserve food when you have too much of it, so it will be available later. Now for my recipe. I decided to make a basic Southern buttermilk cornbread. Here it is. And let's see, I chose this recipe because in literary taste, Bennett said that you must confine yourself to the recognized classics. And what could be more classic than cornbread in the South? I follow the recipe exactly, although I usually substitute butter if a recipe calls for oil or shortening. Remember, this book is from 2000. People still shied away from butter. After combining these ingredients, greasing the skillet, and baking for about 25 minutes, this is the finished product. It turned out perfect, and I may put it in a dressing today and make a cornbread dressing to go along with a baked chicken. Who knows? Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.